Om Namah Shivaya. Again, welcome to Siddha Yogi, Shriman Adinarayananji. This is session 4, I believe. We've been talking about Dharma, the guiding principles of Dharma, the best practices of Dharma, all anchoring on the idea that we have to let the divinity in all of us express itself. We've been, especially in the past session, we were talking about the role of Dharma in his own life and how has that evolved, right? Shriman ji very graciously was sharing his progression in life. I think we talked about up till the point where he did his master's and when he had his Samadhi experience, right? That's kind of where we stopped, and I certainly am curious in terms of the changes that happened in his life, and how has the idea of Dharma evolved after that point. Shrimanji, off to you.
Namaste. Very happy to again meet and continue with the discussion. Today I was watching the auspicious sannyasa svikara of the Kanchi Swamigal, the Pidadipati. It's a very auspicious ceremony, and auspicious not just for the individual, but when we look at sannyasa and such a holy, such a great lineage as the Kanchi Shankaracharya Swamigal. That is for the protection of Dharma and protection of society. And when we say protection of society, what is the role of the individual? What is aspirational? That in the Indian society, traditionally from a very long time, if you see at the height or at the core of society would be the sannyasi or would be the swami or the one who is absolutely selfless. In one sense, sannyasa means, completely selfless, where your family is the entire world. Swadesho Gunatrayam, Bandhava Shiva Bhaktascha. Everyone is your family, and the whole world is your home. Bhunatrayam, in fact, not just this world. So that is the expansiveness of the sannyasa tradition. And that is the expansiveness of the spiritual tradition, which is at the core, principle. When we say the Atman, what are the cultural structures, the cultural scaffolding that gives us sort of a structure to the Atman, not to the Brahma Tattva.
Right.
And it requires very high, nuanced, complex structures in society to hold this principle. If it is homogenized, then it would not do, because each Jivatma is a spark of the Paramatma. There are multiple ways to view it. Those are called the darshanas. But then each Jivatma has to be enabled, right? Because all desires that align with Dharma are valid. So you cannot negate anything. Then you can imagine what kind of structures in society or what kinds of structures are required. Complex structures in Indian society have been created and nurtured from a very long period of time. uh, to express these, and for every individual to aspire for reaching the Atman. Why moksha has been considered such a great ideal. Okay, it's like an oblique goal. Every is it's a concrete goal, but concrete goal is achievable, and it is concretized. Once you achieve it, that's it. It's objectified. But moksha is something that cannot be objectified. The Atma is something that cannot be objectified. It is beyond the subject-object duality. So, how do you capture this as a societal framework? And that, Bharatiya Samskriti or Rishi Parampara has really cracked the code, I would say, because it requires highly multidimensional, high nuanced structures in society and, and the cultural context, which help every individual set the aspiration, the goal, and yet it's a goalless goal. So that's where such traditions are celebrated, those set by Adi Shankara Bhagavad and the other great acharyas. And even before that, there are the Naga Sadhus, the Siddha Parampara, like that, an ancient tradition going all the way back, where these qualities, these values are upheld as the core values that govern this reality. What are the values of sannyasa ashram? Around those, there will be other layers of values that sustain society. There will be Vanaprastha ashrama, there will be Grihastha ashrama. It is like around the Atman, multiple layers. Like you have the Pancha Kosha, the Anandamaya Kosha, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha. And that's when the individual prarabdha gets linked. Like that is the architecture. And then the Annamaya Kosha, which is none of these are static. It's a live balancing mechanism, and hence very, very intricate. So right after my experience of Samadhi, when I discovered, okay, this is called Samadhi, my value structures underwent a transformation. While earlier, because there was nothing else for me to refer to. In engineering education, what is the value that you aspire for? The highest value is a great job or to become an entrepreneur and earn a ton of money. So my aspiration was naturally a multi-millionaire. I had not reviewed it closely. I did not have the orientation or the means to review it closely. Is this what I want to aspire for in life? So I did not have that yet. But the experience of Samadhi, the spiritual experience, propelled me to review my life aspirations. What is it that I want to accomplish in life? Because the mind had become still. I now I could re-aspire, rejig things, so I need not go this path. Now it was an open canvas. Now, how do I choose to paint my life? And when I say how, it's not to do with processes. It's not to do with what to do, but more in terms of the idea of value. What's the value proposition? Yeah, right. That becomes the key. What is the value that I wish to deliver to this world and to myself? So it's that a shift in that value proposition. What values would I choose to live by? What values would I want to ingrain in this reality? So it's a value proposition. It's like reviewing even my own life. What core values should it be centered around? Now that freedom, it was I could re-proposition. If you see what I'm leading to.
Yeah. So Shrimanji, if I can just briefly pause and just prod a little more, did the Samadhi experience directly led to the introspection, and was it like a switch put on or off where the chasing of money just fell through the crack immediately and there was a void, and then you obviously had to like find for yourself, okay, so then what is worth pursuing now? Was it like a switch on, put on or off, or was that a conclusion after introspection as well?
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for that, prod. Uh, as I explained from teenage, I was explaining about addiction. Where is addiction? Is it in the action? But then action is governed by thought, and thought means it's not one thought; it is a stream of thought, or we can call it thought cycles. And thought cycles, I could not switch on or switch off. I had no freedom until then. Not easy. Because I was becoming aware of more and more thought cycles and interconnected thought cycles that hold these in place. And no breakthrough in terms of it's like a fabric. So many threads, so many strands holding the whole fabric in place. And I could not understand it. So you understand the chitta. Chitta is a weave.
Right.
So I had not achieved that kind of a breakthrough yet. So with the Samadhi experience, what happened was there was a breakthrough. Where suddenly I was free of, it was spontaneous occurring. I did not for it. Till then, my regular life, my schedule, my busy life, also the aspirations, everything was holding my lifestyle, my everything else in place, like aspirations, desire patterns, thought cycles, my daily activities. Given a choice, when there is nothing else to do, what could I do? These are all held in place by this kind of a weave. So it's not one thing. So it's like a weave that holds the entire fabric of our orientation in place. Okay.
If I may also ask Shrimanji, I was listening to, I just remembered a speech of Chinmayananda, where he talks about with spiritual experience, spiritual progression, one loses. I think if I may quote him, he talked about anxiety about future, right? So he talks about how that should dissolve or it will dissolve. So it sounds like the weave, one of the strand in the weave, or many strands in the weave, is also fear or anxiety about future. Once that has been penetrated, or it is gone, now you get to rewrite the way forward in a completely different way. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, beautifully stated. So it is like born anew every day, or born new every moment. Become that Shuddha Chaitanya. You are that awareness. You are not that conditioning. So see, that's why in the yogic system, for example, Yoga Sutras, Maharishi Patanjali says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha Tada Drashtu Swarupe Vasthanam. So one needs to forever refer to the Drashta. So that should be the fallback state. That is like the default mode network, if we can say that. So the default mode network now is shifted to a spiritual condition, which is the Drashta. That gives a lot of freedom. You are not any longer the karta. The karta is more like the conditioned patterns of activities. So karta is random activities. The doing is not out there. The doing is this complex being that is holding the doing in place, right?
Yep.
And we are caught up in that compulsively. When there is nothing else to do, what will you do? That determines who you are. Okay. So when there is nothing else, most of us get busy with those vasanas that come forth. Okay. But those who aspire for a spiritual condition, basically when there is nothing else to do, you fall back to the drashta. The drashta that gives you a newness. It was like born again every moment, because you can refer to the drashta and from there attach to anything, plug and play. You're not those chitta vrittis, conditioned patterns of activities. You're not that. You fall back to drashta, and hence you have a newness about you. You're like a child. A child is situated, it's just observing it because it has not formed too much analysis or too much labeling, too much judgment, not burdened by that. And hence, free to encounter But that's just that the child does not have experience. So it does not have the big data of experience. So the complex weave to sustain the state also. Okay. Uh, but with the full experience, you can sustain the state because you know, okay, this is the weave, and hence when you fall back to the drashta, as you beautifully said, it is like an eternal now. You're not caught up in the space-time matrix, you're not caught up in time. You're not projecting forever. You can project. That's a Shakti that you use. And but from the state of a drashta. So there is ever new, newness to your vision, because new means it's now. So in sense, your awareness is situated in the now, and now is eternal. So the idea of time has to be understood, and that's where that now that is also linked with the prana cycles. For example, in the Indian system of time, you have yugas, kalpas, manmantras, yugas. Then you have samvatsaras. Then you have masa, vara, dina. And in dina, you have 60. One dina is one sunrise to next sunrise. And that dina is broken down into 60 ghatis, which is roughly about 24 minutes. And each ghati is one vigati, which is about roughly about 24 seconds. And each vigati, so 60 vigatis make one ghati, 60 ghatis make one dina. And each vigati is made up of 6 prana. One prana is roughly 4 seconds. So you can see it's linked with, so it's not just out there, the objective reality and the subjective reality are interlinked. Now, as more and more objective, outward projecting, then there is the framework of time, which becomes objective. As you insource it, that's the idea of looking within. As you link it with prana, then you manipulate your prana. The framework of time changes. It's amazing. For example, this is linked with, now we know in neuroscience, it's linked with wave patterns. Your EEG patterns change if you change your, prana cycles, if you change your breath cycles. And that changes the perception of reality also. So it becomes very powerful. In quantum physics, it's again made objective out there. Nobody knows how to play with it. But in the ancient or Indian spiritual frameworks, the subjective objective, you link it. Then where does the subject end? Where does the object begin? So the jnana, nyatra, nyeya, this kind of a process gets merged, and it's one flow. The flow, you cannot miss it. That means you stop your breath. My breath stopped. So for me, time finished. You understand? It's not unscientific. It's not mystical in that sense. This can be reasoned out, and one can aspire for it. Then, with this kind of a thing, what value systems would you want to live by? So now we come to value propositions, because you now have that freedom. You're not locked in.
Right.
Because those kinds of cycles will lock you into those value frameworks, right? Where, for example, fear, insecurity, or anxiety, it will lock you in. Then whether you like it or not, now how do you shift out of it?
Right.
One way is reasoning, but you need it's complex, interweave. So I had gotten a breakthrough with respect to this, and hence with the Samadhi Anubhava, now I had freedom to redefine the kinds of values that I live by. Values in terms of already simple, family, simple value systems, already that is set. So when I say values, it's not, negative values are not there. No harm, vengeance, this, that, all that is not there. It's a very simple life already. But now, just as I said, engineering, the value that is taught is of, money. What will you do? Because without money, you cannot exist. That's what is taught. All that I could now relook. Okay. that is the emergence of those dharmic values that I plan to share now. Okay, it's a very interesting discovery process. But in this, I will also introduce some historical aspects, not just philosophy, not just yoga, not just those, because those also that it's a complex interweave. For me to understand, I could now reformulate the values that I live by. For example, that's how the Indian system has done, where the core values of sannyasa, of moksha, because those are Atman-centric or the divine-centric. Those have been the values that guide everything. Okay, but those are the core. So it is like to reach it. Core means top. So inner means upward. So that is very important. Outward, objective means downward. So urdhva moolam adha shakham. So outward and downward, inward and upward. This is the architecture of reality. Urdhva moolam adha shakham. So the moola, the root is upward and inward. Okay. So that way, that which brings forth that architecture is of value. As we move more and more outward, we are caught up in objective reality, and hence fear, insecurity, anxiety, so many other things enter. Okay. So, with this experience, I suddenly was free of my mental chatter, or it was a silent mind that I encountered, and it was breathtaking. I could swim in the ocean of that, waveless, chitta. It was breathtakingly expansive. It was just expansive, that's that. And in one sense, my experience of samadhi, I experienced it as freedom from kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. These are all the shad ripu that so at that time I did not have this architecture. So I had a clear experience of being freed from these shackles. Okay, how to describe it? I don't know. It's a highly subjective experience, because the subject object, how does it? It's an interbeam. No longer is it like a watertight compartment, or whatever you call it. No, it's free flowing. Okay, so in that sense, when these were freed up, these kinds of binding, shackles or ropes were freed up. Now, these base emotions no longer disturb the mind. It was a very interesting thing. It was settled. It was highly settled, and nothing could perturb that state of mind. And day and night it was still. So that was the expansiveness, and one clear feeling that emerged. It's not a verbal feeling. Now I'm verbalizing it because I've gained a lot more knowledge. The feeling at that time was a pulsating love. Now, it was my experience of samadhi, where it's a calm mind, completely still, and no time, because the prana is still, and it's pulsating love that I experienced as this reality. How do you describe it? It's not mystical. It's not supernatural. It's very simple. Everything is love, and it was pulsating love. Nothing but love. There is no subject, object, all these differentiation. It was just love, and the love has no direction, no object, no purpose. That is God. This was a state of samadhi that I experienced. And
Paramanand, right?
Paramanand, you can say, or it's beautifully captured, later when I encountered the Siddha literature. It is beautifully captured by Tirumular as Anbe Shivam. So, love is God, It's beautifully captured. But it's very deep. It's not a simple statement. It's that love is so complex that it is purna.
Hmm.
It does not have any objects in it. So it is a very complex state to achieve. Though it is the simplest, it's the fundamental of that which holds everything. This entire manifest and unmanifest reality in it.
Hmm.
This was my state of experience. So how to describe it? So the mind had stilled because the experience was overwhelming. So the mind cannot reason out. See, the mind kicks in when it's within grasp. That which is beyond grasp, how does the mind has no role in it. It cannot reach. You cannot think about it. These are not logical constructs.
Right.
And experience. So now I'm putting logic to it. I'm putting words to it, but it is a poor job. I know.
Yes.
It does not mean anything actually, but the experience is really valid and profound. It's very sacred. It was a very sacred, very close experience. It took me a long time to start talking about it because it is like you cannot reveal your love so easily, and public consumption. It's not. But then, as per Guru Agnya and as per inner feel, I felt that this can be used as an illustration for everyone to benefit, especially those who have spiritual thirst.
Right.
So in that sense, I'm sharing. So that's where coming back to the value orientation. Now that there was some freedom, some operating freedom. No longer a compulsive pursuit of a job or wealth. I could reimagine my life. What would I live by? What value systems would I live by? Because where your Shraddha is, that's how your life emerges. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna calls it Shraddha Traya Vibhaga, or classification based on your belief architecture. So is the belief architecture. And the belief architecture matters so much. It can be tamasic, it can be rajasic, it can be sattvic. So a sattvic belief architecture is a wonderful thing to have, not just individually, not just for a family, but for the entire society. It works wonders. Okay. Obviously, even a value system is created and sustained. There need to be takers, and one needs to arrive at it. So it's not for example, just as we aspire to go to the US, at that time I was aspiring to go to the US, make a lot of money. Then how is that aspiration created and sustained? Right? It's a tough job, and that's the colonization, process. When the European nations, colonized the entire world, they established it as aspirational. Just where earlier in Europe, it was aspirational to go to the East, go to India. Right. Because, Soni ki chidiya, it's like a golden bird. So it was aspirational. So how do you create and sustain an aspiration? So now my aspiration had expanded, gone more fundamental. So what would I live by? Because I see love as manifest everywhere. Then what would I live by? After, so that with that value architecture, where love is at the core and love is God, if you have to weave all value systems, what would you weave? What would be at the center? And that's where I felt that, what is valuable to me is no longer $1 million in the bank, would I spend my entire life, because it takes time, effort, energy, and my life I will have to expend to sustain that $1 million in the bank, right? So that's being a multimillionaire or a multi-billionaire.
Right.
So my whole life will go in that pursuit. No, I didn't want it to be so reductionist. That felt like reducing in the value architecture.
Right.
Why would I unidimensionalize it? That did not seem like a great idea to me any longer. So now, freedom to redraw it. So I wanted to aspire more just a multimillionaire seemed like a very small aspiration for me at after this experience. That's in a sense I graduated. I started aspiring for more, not giving up. So it's like you have a family. This is my family. Sannyasa means the whole world is my family. Why should you aspire for less?
Right.
Now I will do for everybody.
Right.
No. And in that there is so much fulfillment, there is so much vairagya, freedom. Because you are not just this, you'll do for everybody. You'll also do for this, but you'll also do for everybody.
Right.
So that is the nature of aspiration transformation that happened, where I could now aspire for not just a job, not just becoming a multimillionaire, not just an entrepreneur. I could use my energies, my will, my capabilities to aspire for much more, which is the spiritual life, which goes much deeper at the core. So when we say the Atman, it's highly aspirational. Other things pale in comparison to the kind of effort, to the kind of aspiration, to the kind of multidimensionality, all that it encompasses. So that should be understood. It's not, I'm not able to achieve this. Maybe I should achieve moksha.
Yeah.
Not from that kind of orientation. It's not a defeatist or a loser orientation. Okay. So that has to be understood. It requires great energy, great focus, and great and hence you can imagine when I had this kind of an experience. Now suddenly my previous life seemed small. I could no longer live by that. It is almost like a child keeps playing with toys, and when it grows up, it sees that it can no longer engage with those toys. It's too small.
Yeah.
Right? That's the feeling that engulfed me. I could no longer play for the toys of the world. It was too small for my new look. That's what the Samadhi gave me. And hence, I necessarily had to relook at my life, at the value systems that I brought into my concrete vision. And that's where I had a agya to return back to Bharat, because there is a concept of kshetrajna. So as you develop as a kshetrajna, your kshetra also shifts. And the kshetra need not be material. It can be everyone's hearts, for example. How to keep everyone's mind calm and peaceful. Even that is a kshetra. So like that, the work that I felt propelled to look at, that expanded in nature and scope. It was a natural thing because of that experience, because of the spiritual experience. Then I came back to Bharat. I did not know what I would do. I was just a college, pass out. I had graduated from masters. That's it. Not too old by modern standards that anybody would respect my words or my decisions, or whether I even the authority to make decisions, because it's the Indian family. So when I returned back, I went to my parents. My father had superannuated, I retired, and they were staying in the village. So I reached the village. I lived there for a few months, and the body was still. It would not move, because the mind would not move. So I still had to figure out. So I thought to myself that it will take me at least 2 years to get, because it's a high energy condition. I had to come to terms with it. It's not easy because all my structures that I had fallen away. So I had to build it again. So it was I felt it would take at least 2 years for me to settle down in the body, in the breathing cycles, in so many things. It's all it takes time. But I could not explain it, and obviously nobody felt comfortable. Your US return, you're sitting at home, and that too, it's a village. Everyone knows everybody else, And everyone asked. My parents could not go to, my father could not go to any function. And in Indian system, you cannot be without attending function. So everyone would ask, oh, what is your son doing? This, oh, US return. Then where is he working? Software engineer. Software, everyone is comfortable with. But no, he's just sitting at home. Ooh, what happened to him? You cannot explain, no, he had Samadhi experience. Samadhi, Samadhi Gatitan. Samadhi Gatitan means, that is the Samadhi that
nobody is it's very, very unique that people do not go through such experiences. People cannot relate to experiences like this. Even if you explain, how much ever you explain, they're not going to understand. Right? Yeah.
it is difficult. I could understand their point of view, but my point of view, I could not. I was still not in a position to explain it appropriately. Right. I also understood it takes time. See, all that understanding, I could understand others' minds, but nobody could fathom my mind. So that was my state of experience at that time. But I had patience. Yogi's skill set is infinite patience because you are that Atman. Eternal wait. You are ready for it. That is a very important value system where you are willing to wait for that which you hold as value. So it is like Nandishwarar, waiting in front of Shiva Burma. Waiting in eternal wait. That's the value orientation, a very deep orientation. Then initially before I left for the US, I remember visiting a street, in Srivilliputturu. That's the Tamil Nadu emblem, state emblem is the Gopuram, I think, of Srivilliputturu temple, Andal temple. So I visited there, and I remember thinking that the lanes leading to it are all congested and filled with shops and vendors, all shouting, everything buzzing with life. And it's big shop, small shop, roadside vendor, this, that. It appeared very chaotic. Okay, that's what I remember now. When I went to the US, at that time, before going to the US, I felt that if everything were neatly organized, where everything same size, same approach, same interface, that would be so nice. Then when I went to the US, I found that as a student, I did not have, when I wanted something, I could not access it. It was so distant. I needed to possess a car to go to the mall, and the mall had everything. It was all neatly organized. But the access to it was not there. When as a student, it was the architecture itself was a little, what can be called, discriminatory. You can call it economic discrimination. You need to have money to survive. That is what I felt. In India, you don't need money to survive. That's a beautiful architecture. I came to realize, in contrast, in comparison, I came to realize these kinds of value, what is called mining, started happening because of contrasting experience. That way, I really appreciate the Western experience, because that made me understand the value of the Indian architecture. I started understanding and appreciating how access to everybody in society, irrespective of the economic proposition, becomes very important. Just as earlier, my life was about becoming multi-millionaire. That means, money is the core value proposition. And that is the architecture that the US represents, in my eyes, in one sense, because it's you need money. As a student, I needed money to access something very simple, which is out there in a mall and which is also sustained at heavy cost to the environment. It is fully AC, and you need a lot of money to set up shop. So that way, who gets to set up a shop? Who gets to have an address in that business district? That is again determined by money. Then what happens to those who have aspiration but no money? Can they rise up to it? It's a very steep ladder. So that way I felt India to be a much better architecture, social architecture, which is equitable, which is just, fair, which does not discriminate along money so much. If you don't have money, you can still live. You can eat. Someone will give you food like that. So my eyes were open to such social architectures because now I was free to participate in co-creating society, in co-creating reality. That is the freedom that I had gotten. Earlier, the participation was more in terms of my own life. It's all about me. And my own life is a small circle. I want to be a multimillionaire, and for that, what will I do? There are not larger aspirations guiding so much, not at the forefront. Because at the forefront, what is there? Benefit to me. That's called Pradhan. Now it had shifted to Dharma Pradhan. And it was originated in the Atman, that means moksha. So one is the architecture is dharma leading to moksha, another is the moksha sustaining dharma. So this kind of a beautiful interweave started emerging, where now I could see what values sustain society and how to work towards that. How to participate in that. So the individual feels empowered. That's the Atma Bala. It's empowerment. You can literally sustain this creation, because you are the Atman. You can participate in co-creating and co-sustaining this creation. That's a beautiful empowerment, which is a natural evolution. So I felt that kind of a value orientation. And hence, if you can see, after coming back, I really appreciated even the market structure, where, for example, you will have a pukada. So the whole street will be filled with flower vendors.
Like a Sunday.
Sunday. There is no competitive advantage. Come on, it does not have any, because everyone is selling the same stuff.
Right.
And yet everyone is prosperous. They live in harmony. They have their competitiveness, but still not killing each other or not cutthroat competition. They live and let live. They are prosperous. They are satisfied, and they are okay doing the same thing the whole lifetime. This kind of architecture started becoming visible to me, and compared to the, say, US architecture, where it's like a cutthroat competition, or a mall where everything is standardized, everything is governed by rules, explicit rules. Here it's more like unsaid, it's more nuanced guidelines. So these kinds of things also started emerging, and that's where I was also initially my orientation was not towards marriage, but then through Agnya, I definitely felt this lifetime, marriage, Grihastha Dharma is very important to sustain the activities. So that way we got married, and Matrushi got married, and we felt that teaching is very useful because we were software engineers, because I had to take up a job because my parents and everyone felt heartbroken. What will you do in life? Because there's so much uncertainty, and that is not good, because I should not. And that comes out of being a well-wisher, genuine well-wishing, because you should not waste your time. The Indian reality is very simple. Human birth is difficult to get, so you should not waste your time. You should not repent your life, and hence be busy with the right things. And being busy with the right things means, working, earning, setting up a family, doing all those. And that is a good life. That is called Grihastha Dharma. So that was the expectation, right? I have to earn, I have to be financially sound, all that. So I really appreciate those expectations. I really appreciate that architecture. And yet, I could do more. So after marriage, we shifted from software industry, because for for the time being, I knew I needed to listen to my parents. They were well wishers. I had to see what best to do because nothing further had emerged after that experience. So there was still some learning curve involved. So, okay, how to interact with society, how to work together. If I need to serve society, I need to be able to learn about society and interact with it and work with it. So that way, it was not withdrawing from society, but engagement with the society. And hence, after marriage, we were in the software industry. And then, at the earliest opportunity, we both decided we will move to teaching. Because at that time, if students ask me, why did you come to teaching? I would generally say, I used to spend 14, 15 hours in front of the computer, but that damn thing would not get inspired. So you are slightly better. So you can see, I'm inspired, and I wish to transmit inspiration because I felt that is a very important need in society. Because I was seeing that most people did not could not look forward to their next day. They did not want to. There was no inspiration. There was nothing to look forward to. Life was a drag, dragging their feet to school, dragging their feet to college, dragging their feet to work, then lifelong it's a serious misery, serious suffering. You cannot drag your life, you cannot push your life, and that causes a lot of strain, friction, and suffering. So that way, I felt education might be the right place. We could not go to school because we were not qualified. School or kindergarten requires a lot of work. The university level education was comfortable, because so that way we went to Amrita University in Coimbatore. Mata Amritanandi Devi is a great personage, Sadguru, who has inspired the world with love and compassion. So, she talks of the poverty of love, care, and affection. And I also recognized it's not just poverty of food, not just poverty of love, care, affection, but there is also poverty of inspiration. And inspiration means they need to be connected with the right value system and the right knowledge system. Now, the knowledge system was draining people of inspiration because it was an objective knowledge system where what is taught is just objects, it's objective reality, it's just a description of objective reality. And that's not sufficient. Just studying math, physics, chemistry, biology, it's not sufficient because it is just objective, Then what values do I live by? How do I inspire myself? So that became the natural pursuit. Because if we fix that kind of educational aspect, then everyone will be inspired because the right content in education, the right knowledge in education. So that became the orientation. So that started the next phase of our activities.
So Guruji, if I can add, just to reinforce a few things that you said, the traditional educational system actually focuses on values that is long lasting, right, meaningful, whereas this education system that we all have gone through, right, a school system, including, let's say, college in the US, is a very ultra capitalistic way of thinking about life, right? And at the core, at the center is pursuit of money, right? It is maybe near term, one can find some inspiration, name, fame, glory, all proxy for money, right? But it's very, very difficult to sustain that, right? At some point, we all are going to find that it's very shallow. One has to really force themselves, go through a lot of self-hypnosis to somehow sustain, but with clear limitation, right? There is only so much you can go through self-hypnosis. At some point, there is going to be this realization. People call it midlife crisis, whatever name you give, that is ultimately impending. You are walking towards it, right? So rather with Guruji's, your guidance, with all the other gurus in the world, we certainly can. We have an opportunity to gain clarity, take a step back, and like you mentioned, redesign our life and realign our life towards what is more permanent, what is more lasting.
Yes. And as you rightly say, that self-hypnosis is also, held in place with a collective hypnosis. And that collective hypnosis started emerging to me more and more from the student experiences. The students, I really thank all those students, wonderful students that I had as part of university education. We had an open door policy. So from morning 4 to midnight, our doors would be open. We used to live in the residential quarters within the university campus. And students, apart from working times, students would walk in for various purposes. Some would come for yoga, dhyana, Vedanta, or philosophy. Some would come to discuss their problems. Some would come to discuss anything, just hanging out. Some would come to play with children. Some would come for dance, drama. Some would come for violin, Carnatic music. Some would come for Linux hacking. I was a Linux hacker. Hacking means improving software. I was improving, and now I'm a life hacker. I improve people's lives. So, so that way, everyone would be welcome home, and it would be like a hangout. The students also gained. They would whatever they come for, they would gain that. But gradually, they would open up. They would we would. It's a very simple reality. It's a teacher-student relationship, but not just that. They are seeing us not just in the classroom, but at home in a very different setup. And the nature of the relationship also gets transformed. It becomes more trusting. It becomes more comfortable, more like a home. And there they would start discussing various aspects. We would engage in diverse kinds of discussions. And it emerged that, the questions would not just be about computer science or IT. It would be about life in general, their decision making. What should I do in life? How do I find meaning and purpose in life, and so on, which maybe they could not discuss with so many others, because if you discuss what is the meaning of life, what is the purpose of life, these might seem like, hey, these questions should be asked after retirement. Yeah, all this yoga and all that, do it after retirement. Now focus on studies, focus on being successful, and success narrowly defined, as you rightly said, by collective hypnosis. So what is success? Success is getting a job, getting a good job, and a top pay package. Mostly, for many people, when that is the definition, and that is also associated with the status and prestige in society. So this kind of an architecture, as I started, so we used to discuss Vedanta, we used to discuss yoga, but gradually I started seeing that that is not sufficient, because it's not a philosophical orientation that is the problem. It is more the historical perspective which has created this collective hypnosis. For example, to introduce, analyzing this, we started investing in introducing the right role models. So we started introducing Ramayana, Mahabharata, because we wanted continuity and an architecture that would explain deeper principles of decision making, of consequences of attitudes, consequences of your life process, for the emergence of deeper values. So we introduced Mahabharata, for example, which is very deep. Bhagavad Gita is the crux of it, but that's for a student who does not have full-fledged life experience. Bhagavad Gita is too refined. It is the direct fruit. It is the principles like the Upanishads. Though the students might appreciate it, they want the context which will help emerge the principles of Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
Okay. So that context easier than regular life context, easier than debating politics or social sciences or this. Easier is to go with a set architecture like the Mahabharata, which is complex architecture, which is brilliantly done. And hence, just introducing that, there's a lot of inner refinement that happens because it directs your thought and awareness towards areas which you would not naturally think about because that much data point of experience you might not have accumulated in your life. You need big data of experience to emerge the values that are there in the Bhagavad Gita. To look at the Atman, you need so much depth and weight of experience to be able to emerge the values mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads. So not easy to accomplish. And that you can vicariously have through the Mahabharata or the Puranas. That's the brilliance of that is the use of historical documents.
Right.
But then when we introduced this, what we found is that many people could not look at that as history. They looked at that as
mythology. So something very unique about this. Me and my wife, we keep arguing about this fact that we should never ever refer to these as mythology ever. So I don't know whether I can take the name or not. So my son goes to a school nearby, right? It's a very famous Hindu weekend school. Okay. And there, when they refer to Mahabharata and Ramayana, they will have skits, and then there will be, the parents sitting on the other side. And when they refer to Ramayana and Mahabharata, they themselves will say mythology, right? Our famous Hindu mythology, Ramayana, and then we'll be teaming, right? At least we should refer to these as mythology rather than history, right? I mean, otherwise, our kids are, they're not going to be wired correctly, right? If they treat that as mythology, the essence will be lost.
That is so true. Because especially imagine you are in the US. So you can imagine when you are trying to introduce India to your own child, you don't have the rich context that India provides. So in a delimited context or a reduced context, if you need to introduce India, the best recourse is to introduce some Bharatanatyam or Carnatic music but that again will not give them a flavor of India, which you want them to point to. So the life of a parent is very tough to reintroduce or rebuild a full context, which will help the child see what you're pointing at, and hence if the nearest comes, Mahabharata or Ramayana. But to weave that complex tapestry, the most fundamental required is, all those should be meaningful. If it is introduced as mythology, it's mithya jnana. And this is not philosophical, this is historical. So it's like this collective hypnosis that has taken over us. Right. And at that time, when we started introducing, I definitely felt a need for further tapasya to clarify these aspects. So I had the good fortune of spending 40 days at a stretch. I would be on Mauna Tapasya. The explicit purpose was Loka Sangraha. It's not, my own benefit. Tapasya can be done with various aims in mind. This was for Loka Sangraha. And 40 days at a stretch, I would be completely isolated without mostly, without, I'll take some, simple food without salt, all these regular things, because for tapasya, it's not suitable. So for 40 days at a stretch, I would be completely isolated and in meditation, and nobody would know where I am except for my wife. So between us, we agreed one of us had to do tapasya to emerge these deeper principles. And it was agreed, no, I would be more suitable because she can take care of certain things. So then you can also imagine it's a beautiful relationship as well. It's supporting each other. It's not worrying that the other, what will they do? So that is the beauty of the Indian marriage system. It gives a clear grounding. That's also a realization. So I engaged in tapasya, and then in one tapasya, it clearly emerged that the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Rishi Vakya, everything is literal. It's real. It's not just philosophical. It's real, and history has been hidden. It's simple as that. So that emergence actually shake me up, because till then I did not have that kind of orientation and a realization. So then I started understanding, I started digging deeper, because I'm also a professor. So academic orientation is there. Research tools, we employ research tools, research methodologies. So to satisfy my curiosity, I started, researching a little bit. And I found that most of the challenges that my students, I'm devoted to my students, okay? So I would research, and then I would want the best for them. And best for them is clarity, happiness, success, whatever they wish for. How can I serve them better? That's the kind of orientation. That's a typical teacher's orientation. So in researching, I started understanding that these are not just philosophical. There is this a period of history where there is the colonization process that happened throughout the world. So after the Crusades and the consolidation of power in Europe, there was the colonization process where European nations colonized the entire world. So North America was colonized, South America was colonized, Asia was colonized, Australia was colonized, Africa was colonized. And this is history. It's not mythology, okay? This is history, plain history. Everyone can study about it. It's just there. But one has to rediscover it and recontextualize it for one's own purposes. And my purpose was to benefit the students, because I'm to benefit my students. I'm seeing that I'm introducing yoga, Vedanta, all that. And yet they have questions on their life path, life direction, and their broad principles of Vedanta, they are not yet ready to to understand it. So I need more concrete principles, and that's where historical analysis becomes very important. And when I try to introduce Mahabharata, which to me is history, they find it a little jarring, because is it even real? It is mythology. So that kind of assumption is highly damaging, because then you cannot gain fully from it. While for us it's simple, it's itihasa, it's Purana. Purana itihasa is not mythology, it's not that. The architecture is very different. So that's why, looking at history that they understand, and then establishing what are the current assumptions, where do they come from? They are not coming from the Atman. They are not coming from the deep philosophy, the Vedantic principles, or the Veda, or the Itihasa Purana, the Mahabharata, or they are not coming from the Tamil Siddha Parampara. They are not coming from there. They are not emerging from there. Where are they emerging from? They are emerging more from the colonization process, those assumptions. And those are not working. They are not working in their favor, while they hold very strongly to it. For example, the very simple idea that education was introduced by the Britishers, many students used to hold this idea. To me, it appeared, hey, it's very, no, how can it be? But they were very strongly embedded in their chitta. And hence, I needed to provide a deeper context, which will emerge deeper ideas, which is beneficial for them. So that way, as I researched, we have the doctrine of discovery, where the whole world was colonized. And hence, it became a and a lot of wealth went out from, say, India, from all over the world, but from India, a huge amount of wealth. Uh, uh, this has to be understood because that impacts the whole view that a student is carrying, and that will impact their, what kinds of values they look forward to, where they position their life, how they choose to live. All these, what is aspiration to them? If the aspiration is going to the West, that again has to be looked at. So all these become visible because now I'm interacting with thousands of students. Okay, I'm no longer an individual. I'm interacting, daily seeing the conditioned mindsets playing out, and that has an impact. I have to do something about it, and that's why I was looking deeper into what causes these. What is the emotions? What is the ground from which this value that going to the US is so valuable emerges? So I need to look at such emerging principles, emerging mindsets, because students means how can I serve my students if I don't understand where those things are emerging from? So that's where, as you rightly said, a self-hypnosis. If they are self-hypnotized, we need to link it with the collective hypnosis and then decode that in terms of history, not just philosophy or psychology. So psychology again emerges from the collective experiences that have been had that impacts personal psychology. So this kind of a reasoning led me to exploring more, and that's when I discovered that there was the colonization process, and those ideas imposed on the whole world. And that's where even now an aspiration to go to the West is so so very much there. And then again, aspiration for a job, aspiration, a very narrow idea of success, all these are not from the Indian basis. They are from the colonized basis. Where that's what I started researching and understanding. Where, for example, so much wealth taken away from India, and then industrialized process launching goods, breaking the karma and dharma of society, where there is the idea of swadharma, which is mentioned in the Mahabharata. So it's a very different social reality. So I had to compare and contrast to establish to them, hey, see, look here. So without contrast, it's very difficult to establish. So this is the kind of framework which became very helpful.
And I'm thinking with you here, right? I think that is profound. Your own introspect. I mean, I can totally relate to that. But the simple fact that it hasn't been even a century, right? All the money has been looted, money gone, right? There was utter poverty, right? People for decades and decades just somehow meeting, having their ends meet. They're just surviving. When you're in constant survival mode, you're naturally gravitating towards, it's just Maslow's, hierarchy, right? You're like, okay, how can I just go one step better? For that, I need money. How? And if you have some intelligence, then okay, can I put my intelligence to use and get to the next step, which is making more money? If I stay in India, yes, I can make more money. If I go to the US, I can probably do 5x, right? It's just survival.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And societal survival, and that becomes individual notions as well.
Yes. And that's the hypnosis that we are talking about. So you have beautifully summarized that. It becomes a survival. And that is the lowest that humanity can aspire for. Just aspiring for basic survival is killing human dignity, and that happened because of the colonization process and the invasions that were there. So there were the invasions, and then followed by the colonization process. And the colonization sealed it. Even now, the idea of education or idea of even earning money somehow is interlinked with the basic idea of survival, and that is not a great thing. to aspire for, because that should be taken care of. Imagine, there is human dignity is not about survival. That the society should ensure for every member of society. If a society cannot ensure basic survival for every member of society, that society is not a great society. Aspiring for survival is not a great societal design. And India had already achieved. You would have heard, ancient times, food, education, or healthcare. They're not commercial transactions. So it would not be. You cannot make money out of food, healthcare, and education. So that way, India as a society had already been very advanced civilizationally. Then the colonization process and the invasions and colonization, so over a 1,000-year period, degraded heavily, especially the colonization process, where the basic survival itself was aspirational, was made into an aspiration, because the money siphoned off. So now researchers emerge where about $45 trillion worth of wealth was siphoned off from India in the colonization process, maybe about 170-year period. So less than 200-year period, more than $45 trillion worth of wealth. Now, most people would not believe this, because they would think India is impoverished. No, it was impoverished. So when I came to understand this through, I had because of introducing courses like Mahabharata, I had the benefit of studying the Mahabharata. And then I was also doing researches parallelly, because to give them a comparative framework, to give benefit to my students. I also understood the students, because thousands of students exposure. So I have data set of experience which I'm daily facing. To give benefit is my intention, and connect that to the deeper experience of the spiritual tradition. So there, a comparative analysis becomes inevitable. Upamana is a valid strategy to evoke the right mindset. So that way, so much wealth taken away, industrialized goods launched in, and as a policy enforced everywhere, and then breaking the karma and dharma of society, where each individual, in the Mahabharata or Ramayana, you find terms like Swadharma. Swadharma means what is your role in the larger scheme of society. So that means everybody has a role to play in creating and nurturing society. Okay. Now that is broken, because industrialized goods are coming in, and their karma and dharma, their role in society is broken. So the architecture is broken. And for basic function like food, you don't have wealth, because you have been impoverished. No. And you don't have a role in society. You don't have no meaning and purpose in life. What do you do? Because you're not needed. It is industrialized goods. And for basic survival, now the architecture is created where there are these government jobs that are created, the British jobs. The government jobs has become aspirational, because that will give you access to basic survival, food. Okay. And for that, architecture is created where you have certificates that are given by accredited educational institutions, where access to it is again through money. So there is huge inequity created in society, and you have a huge conflict of people who are otherwise firm in their swadharma. Now, the same jobs they have to compete to access for survival. This huge degradation that happened, and this through when I started putting it together, because it's not in one document, it's not in one place, because the society that Mahabharata presents is very different from the modern day Indian society. And I had to trace, I had to contrast, and I had to get some key in between historical aspects right, to be able to architect the modern society in the minds of students, because they need to see it as emergent. How did we reach here where we are? that we are, we aspire for success, which is very basic survival. Money is everything. The societal architecture is broken down. And there is artificial competition where there should not be any competition. So, and education, which is just about survival. How did we reach here? What happened to all the great values? That was the natural question. Where is a Bhagavan Krishna, or where is a Yudhishthira, or where is a Arjuna? Where did we miss? So this kind of emergence then clearly pointed to basic assumptions that the students had, like the education system was created by the Britishers. The administrative system was created by the colonizing masters. Everything is attributed to the West. Then where were we? Then how do you establish Mahabharata as Itihasa? It will only be mythology because it's not even there. But even imagination. So it would be like Harry Potter, just an imagined fairy tale at best.
Right.
It is not that. It's all over India. It's celebrated. All the festivals are celebrated based on these. Every hill, every this, all. So that architecture, I started understanding it's very important to revive because it's not ad hoc. So the cultural degradation hits very badly. If these values have to emerge, then you need to have an appropriate understanding. And that, students did not have. So, and they did not have, not because of their fault. It was nobody's fault. But it was a colonized mind that I encountered. Because those were the values that I encountered.
So it simply isn't accessible. I mean, I see that your Dharma in a way has become, how can I make it accessible and take it to the people who really, really need it, right? I'm really going back to where we started this conversation, which is the evolution of your Dharma seems to have become, reinstating and reestablishing Dharma in itself.
Yes. That is beautifully put. That is a large statement. That's a huge statement. We have all see the bhagya. We consider life to be blessed. We discover our role in the larger scheme of things. And that can be, then there is meaning and purpose to our life. So even that is built up, that is invested in. It is not automatic. When we ask the question, what is the purpose of my life? It is not something commercial off the shelf or over the counter. No, it's not so objective. It is about investing, and then there is a process of self-discovery. And there are many aha moments in that process. And hence, it's more about a journey, where the journey itself is the process of living, is the process of, that's the process of, self-discovery that happens. So in this process, interacting with thousands of students, I was discovering all these principles, which otherwise, from a still state of mind, I can easily withdraw. It's accessible to me anytime. It's a calm ocean. But I was using that to dive deep down into what afflicts the current students, what afflicts the current state of mind, what causes this boredom, this lack of participation, this lack of agency, this tiredness with life itself, where life is a miserable, and like prolonged misery. And hence there is no aspiration to live Purna, Ayu, like 100 years, no aspiration to live. So all these, how to approach it in a manner that emerges new value system. That becomes a teacher's role, where what causes success, what causes happiness, it's by anchoring oneself on those core value systems. That will lead them, because the diversity of experience that they have, I cannot map. But we need to embed the core values by which, no matter where they are, no matter how they, what they choose to do, still their life will be glorious to themselves, meaningful to themselves. The idea of meaning and purpose, where they feel fulfilled. That's the Atma Bhava. That's the core spiritual fulfillment, where anybody, no matter the circumstances, has access to this sense of fulfillment, to the sense of contentment. And that is a core spiritual value. Now, how do you create this value proposition and make it available to everybody? So that's a lot of work. And that's where understanding the colonization process was very helpful, because not everything can be resolved from a philosophical perspective. That applies at a very deep level. In deep meditation, unless you have the right darshana, you cannot go further. But people might not have reached there. From wherever they are, how do you take them deeper so that they feel fulfilled in whatever circumstance? For that, how do you create the right view, right worldview, right darshan? So, and hence their historical analysis becomes very, it's almost inevitable. And there would be diverse kinds of views. But this I engaged in as I started encountering more and more students, and the nature of questions that they were asking. To resolve those questions, I had to engage in such a journey, such an analysis. And that's how discovery of so many more principles emerged. So, so this is a logical point which also starts the next phase of what all other principles emerged, through such engagement. So maybe we reserve it for another occasion.
For sure, for sure. Shrimanji, I mean, time just passed by. I didn't realize this is probably an hour and a half mark. I think we're there. Very, very interesting conversation. We'll exactly start from where we left it. I can't hear more from you, Shrimanji. Again, with your blessings, we'll end the session. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Murga.
Om Murga. Bye, Shrimanji.